Matt Rhule is entering his third season at Nebraska, which makes this team incredibly dangerous this season. Matt Rhule, everywhere he goes, in his third season, that's when he has the most success. He always delivers in year 3. Number 3 seems to be his lucky number for a reason, because when he was in his third season at Temple, he went 10-4. His third season at Baylor, he finished 11-3 and won the Big 12 championship. Year 3 is when Matt Rhule gets all his ingredients. He gets in the kitchen, and that's when he starts cooking up that Matt Rhule year 3 magic. And the Matt Rhule year 3 magic is what makes Nebraska one of the biggest sleeper teams in the Big Ten that could make a push for the college football playoffs this year. And last season, Nebraska lost 5 out of 6 of their games by 1 possession, which is a sign that this program is trending in this direction for having a huge breakout season. I know that a bunch of you Nebraska fans are tired of being the 1 possession champions, because this was the same case under Scott Frost, but this is a lot different, because everywhere Matt Rhule goes, he always wins in his third season. And you had a very hard-fought game against Ohio State on the road where you lost 21-17. You were in control for that game for the majority of it up until the final minutes of the fourth quarter. You had a overtime loss to Illinois where Dylan Raiola kind of showed signs of being an inexperienced quarterback, and that kind of haunted you in that loss. But with the favorable schedule that Nebraska has this year, you avoid playing Ohio State and Oregon. Your toughest game is against Penn State. There's a realistic path to Nebraska winning 10 games and making a surprise appearance in the Big Ten championship game, because they got a really solid team. They used the transfer portal pretty well. They got the 13th best recruit. Well, they got the 13th best portal class entering this season. The recruiting has been pretty good, although it could be a lot better. But Matt Rhule isn't all about getting the blue chip talent all the time. Sometimes he's just all about getting guys that can be developed and fit the culture that he wants Nebraska to have. But a large reason why Nebraska can make a really big leap this year is Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes from TMU. He was really impressive at times during his true freshman campaign. He started last year off really hot. But then as the season wore on, that's when he started to kind of regress. But he ended the season on a pretty high note with a bowl game, and Nebraska snapped their streak without a bowl win. So I feel with Dylan Raiola entering his second season, he could have the kind of second year that we all are expecting DJ Lagway to have at Florida, because Dylan Raiola, like DJ Lagway, he was a highly sought-after recruit. Initially, he was going to play for Georgia until Nebraska flipped him at the last minute. So there is a lot of upside with this dude. And if he is just 60% of what Patrick Mahomes is, Nebraska could have the best quarterback in the Big Ten this year. And although I don't really think that he is entirely like Patrick Mahomes, he does have a lot of similar mannerisms to what Mahomes has in terms of his playing style, his ability to make a bunch of wild throws outside the pocket, his ability to improvise. He's a willing runner. He's not a guy that's going to burn you on the ground like a Jalen Milroe or Lamar, but if you give him enough green grass, he can make you pay. Nebraska has a really good offensive line coming into this year. They also added Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter out of the transfer portal at receiver. Dane Key is going to be one of the best receivers in the Big Ten this year. This was one of the most underrated transfer portal additions that anybody made during this offseason, because Dane Key was incredibly underutilized when he was at Kentucky because of the bad play calling and the lackluster quarterback play that he received there. So if Dylan Raiola takes that next leap, look out for Dane Key. He could easily emerge as one of the top receivers in the Big Ten. He's an elite deep threat. He has track speed. There's a lot of good pieces around Dylan Raiola that can help him take that big leap. And if that happens, that's going to help Nebraska be possibly not just a team that can compete for the Big Ten championship, but probably compete for a playoff spot as well. We saw Indiana take advantage of having an easy schedule last year. They ducked Ohio State until the tail end of the season. And Nebraska could kind of have a similar season to what we saw Curt Cignetti have last year due to how favorable this schedule is and everything that Nebraska has on offense coming in. The defense is kind of the biggest concern because they did lose their defensive coordinator to Florida State, and he was one of the better defensive coordinators in college football. But you have an experienced secondary. You return 4 starters at that position. Your defensive line could have a small drop-off because you lost a few defensive linemen to the draft and a few that followed the defensive coordinator that they lost to FSU. But you do a pretty good job replacing that via the transfer portal and recruiting. You still have tons of young players with a bunch of upside there. So Nebraska, with this Matt Rhule year 3 magic, they're a team that nobody should really be sleeping on. And don't be shocked if you see them win 9 to 10 games this year. That's where I see them being at. I think the floor is 8 wins. If everything goes wrong, I think that's probably where they'll be at. But if everything just goes right for Nebraska, then maybe their lone loss of the season comes against Penn State. Because there's not a single team on their schedule outside of Penn State that I don't really think Nebraska has a chance of being able to lose to, because they do have a pretty good team. Matt Rhule has a respectable track record of being able to win in year 3. So I'm banking on that Matt Rhule year 3 magic, making Nebraska an incredibly dangerous team in the Big Ten this year.